for your auditors who can really identify these people that the business are mushrooming up. You have an enabling law which says that, please, where I have a suspicion, I can come and investigate and say, this is a company, I'm not sure of what you are doing. And you do it. So why do we take a stringent measure that can have an counterproductive in your mobilization resource and also people getting out of business? I think that's a serious thing which we need to consider most. And with digital stamping, all transactions will be registered. You go to Chair, let me explore this because I've done training in China and Beijing. Any remote business, anywhere, any transaction by dot, I will know who is transacting in Kabale, Arua, it will come direct to my center of collection of revenue. By the time you come to me to declare, I would have known that you made such a business and I would have done it. I think we should now we leave the other crude method and we go to the other, modern way of doing things. I think URA should explore to create competence auditors and things how they are done on ICT than when you compare to the neighboring countries who have started already, they are far ahead of us. Maybe we could have done better. You should get interested on that side, rather than bringing a policy which can make even the group you have who are paying, who are in the tax bracket, they are running out of business. Where will we collect the money? That's my...
We take, Honorable Chairman, we take the advice on building up our auditors' capacity, and we thank you for that. I'd like also to make an attempt at bringing a certain perspective to that proposal, so that together with the submission on building the capacity of the auditors, we can come up with a solution. Now, you realize that when government is coming up with these policies, the tax policies, there is an interest in ensuring that whoever is doing business is actually sustained in business in order for them to keep providing that tax. Now, one of the areas that has helped, especially in the building area for rental, has been the capital deductions that are provided. And the spirit in which it was done is that they envisage that somebody is bringing up a building, they will need to break even at some point. So when they break even, then they will start contributing. So they provided for initial allowance for that person. They provided for their startup costs for that person. They provided also for what we call the industrial building deduction over a period of 20 years. Now, all that was to allow the taxpayer or the person who has put up this building to break even. In addition, you remember 2 years ago, we had an issue with the individual owners who said that their interest on mortgages, because most of the people actually apply for loans or acquire loans to build these buildings, they said that was not being allowed as a deduction. And you passed it so that it's even with the companies. Now, that's an additional one in the tax account. We provide even your interest from the loans. Now, the understanding was that if you're provided with these capital deductions, these interests, and the other expenses are 20% for individuals, you break even. Now, what happens today is, even after breaking even, and you're going to now be in a position to pay, we now have another monster. Now, we have a good, for tax, and you've done very good tax planning, you put it under one entity, you don't even have to pay, even when government put that consideration for you and gave you all those deductions. All you have to do now is get another building. Whatever has been put in this, given to you in deductions, you plow it into another building, and you start another building altogether. This other building also has these deductions. Government thought that it would have been, it's ripe now to get some income, some profit from you, because you've completed this one and you've applied all deductions. It has not happened. You've added another building, and you apply the same deductions, apply all what government has given you, and you're not paying. Continuously, 2 buildings, 3, 4, it is wiping out. It is not disadvantaging you. It is advantaging you 100% and disadvantaging government. And that's a perspective. By the time the auditor comes in, he will see this, and that's how it was seen also. He will see that you've consumed the deductions, but on top of that, you've also taken advantage of a gap in the law where you can bring in all your expenses under that business. And you have nothing to do. He will actually allow you those expenses, and you will not pay for the foreseeable future. So how do we come out of this situation? Because even if you are provided, even if we removed the expenses from you now, you will still be able, if that law is not there, you would still do the same thing for the next 10 years. It's as simple as that.
Maybe one small addition, Chair, on that point.
Yes, CJ.
And drawing an example from how the individuals are treated under this tax. Unless there's some element of capping of expenses, the aggressive tax planning that the Chief is talking about will definitely not allow government to collect any rental income from the big property owners. Just a simple analysis of our data shows that those with the most buildings are contributing the least taxes. There are people with fewer buildings contributing more taxes from this rental. So I think there's still gap for some measure, some policy measure that can help. Maybe cap expenses, because for individuals already expenses are capped, and that allows them to contribute something. But for the companies, there's a gap. Thank you.
Okay. Next issue.
Thank you very much. Thank you, CG. In fact, if honorable members would interest themselves
we can have that
in the
writing.
statistics,
We can have that explanation.
Honorable Kakoza, you'll find that
together with the statistics,
the turnover from rental is in trillions. Yes, yes. We have over 1.3 trillion in a particular year for turnover before we start giving you the deductions and expenses. But we end up with 100 billion as tax.
Okay, next issue.
Next issue from rental, you talked about IFRIS, the electronic fiscal receipt and setting and invoicing. A solution, we are into the first, this is the second month of implementation. As you remember, it was supposed to have started on 1st July, but because of the year as it was, we moved it to 1st January on request from the taxpayers. And we even with the January one, we still have, the onboarding is still going on because we have quite a number of taxpayers with some good, some lame excuses for not being on. But at the end of the day, our intention is to have all the VAT registered taxpayers on. We are at 94% of that, of the 18,000. But we also have inevitably those who are not registered for VAT, a good number who are on because of the interaction with the people doing VAT. So we are standing at 35,000. We're well above the numbers that we were supposed to have registered because of that interactive nature of VAT. Now, there is a lot of sensitization required. Remember, it's only for VAT, and so not everybody can be on IFRIS, only for those who are 150 million turnover per year. But also we have to determine or establish that even if you're not registered for VAT, it looks like your turnover is VATable and therefore you're supposed to be on. So it's a process. You go around, check a supermarket and the rest, and it's not registered for VAT, and therefore it won't be on IFRIS. It's not automatic. But whoever is registered would be on IFRIS by now.
Is there any cost of installing it?
The cost would depend on the option you have taken, because most of the taxpayers, especially the big ones, already have their systems, their ERPs, and so if you're doing a system integration with us, of course there would be a minimum.
You are talking to us. You are not in the URA boardroom.
Sorry.
You are talking to lay people. When you mention
Okay.
those terms for
Sorry.
us who don't understand.
Sorry, Honorable Chairman.
Please simplify the language you are using.
Sorry, Honorable Chairman. So most of the companies already have their systems that allow them to receipt and invoice taxpayers or customers. So all we do is to ensure that that receipt is connected or it interfaces with our own. Why? Because we want that receipt going forward and the invoice you're going to issue to be fiscalized. It has to be known by URA. Yeah. So if you take that approach, the system, you will definitely inject some money because there is some configuration, bring in the experts to do it for you if you don't have any. It will be some little money. But there are also other approaches, like you can decide to use our portal, our web portal, and all you have to do, you get, of course, if you don't have a computer, then that would be an expense for you. But you could still connect that way. We also have another option which is yet to be effected, and that's for the physical devices themselves. We call them electronic physical devices. That we are yet to bring them in, and I think as you have traveled, you've seen them being used at the points of sale. For those whose turnovers and the frequency of their transactions is not that high. So you would be able, it will be just that solution, IFRIS, but in the physical form, and it will be easy for you to do it. In a nutshell, depending on your level or your status, it may not be such a cost center for you, a big cost center for you. Yes. But as I speak, we need a lot of support from you in terms of registering, follow-up, or support from the populace and interesting them in this. Because you remember, if we had started 1st July, now we would be thinking of rolling out to the other bracket outside of VAT. But because of the slow implementation, and which is caused by also the appreciation by the clients not being at the desired level, we cannot do that now. You cannot introduce to everybody IFRIS. We just start with those who already have their documents, who are organized, and those are the VAT taxpayers. We believe that there is going to be a spike in the revenues because of that. Why? Because I think there's going to be 100% visibility on your transactions, which we expect has not been the case with many or all the taxpayers. The other issue was on adjusting pay as you earn. That might be above my pay grade, but we also, I think what we can do from our side is to give you an analysis of pay as you earn as it is now. And if you adjust, you said you have representation from your constituents and others on adjusting
this.
If
we adjust by 100,000.
Yes, then we'll do the figures. Because you remember, because pay as you earn is a very big contributor. It contributes 18% of our tax revenue. So adjusting 235, if you move it to 3, 330, how many of those will be left out of bracket? What's the effect? Those numbers we can do, and we determine.
Those are the numbers.
Those are the numbers you want.
A threshold of, you see, it's twofold. The more you give me more money to go and purchase goods, it helps me also the purchasing power within the community, within the economy. The more you reduce me at that level with the valuation of money, you see 235, what does it buy now when you go in a supermarket? So these are things which you need to consider and see whereby. That's why the chair is interested. We need to know exactly what sort of data you have, those payers you earn. Suppose we shift from that, what are we going to benefit from that? Finance will not pick it because them they are not interested, but you should help the committee to bring those figures to us so that we can enable to know when we put a policy and it's passed in the House, we are in an informed position of the effect.
Maybe I'll also interest you in also looking at the other side of the threshold. When you're looking at 235,
What about the highest individual category?
That one, not that one for 410, but the other one, the Warren Buffett one, the 40%. Remember that the time when it was being introduced, we had expected it to bring us a lot of money. But I think good tax planning has allowed those who would have been above 10 million actually to appear or to represent to be not above 10 million. So the statistics will show that it didn't have that impact.
Give us the statistics to inform our decision making.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Chair. The filing ratios as well, Honorable Member hinted on the filing ratios. There are reasons why these filing ratios are not at the desired level. One of them is when you're looking at the base. When you're looking at the base, Honorable Member, looking at the base for the filing, what we do is we look at all the taxpayers that have been registered. Now it is possible, and it's usually.
Mr. General, can I invite your team for a working tea?
Thank you, sir. Usually you find that not all these taxpayers are actually in business, even when they registered. Because they registered for a particular reason, one-off and the rest, and that's the base we use. And many times, on a monthly basis, we do register cleaning in order to get rid of those taxpayers who just did it because they were importing a car, because they were bidding, and there are very many. And because it remains in the base, and we have not yet agreed in the administration, and it's because of accountability purposes, to remove those kind of people from the base, you would actually see that the filing ratio would be much higher. But that's one of the reasons. So depending on when the statistics is picked, that
Yes, Charles.
Mr. Muchibi and Commissioner General, if you are talking about that, can you also clarify me on these messages we are receiving on phones of filing returns? Are we part of those taxpayers or one import vehicle and what that are receiving messages? Oh, we are being warned for the businesses that we don't know we are having. What is it that, how do we really have?
Thank you.
We are receiving messages, file your return, but what is happening?
Yeah, it might be informed by the way you registered for the TIN.
TIN number.
Yes, when you registered for the TIN and you marked against your source of income and it's not on the employment, it might also be informed by the analysis that is being done as we speak from the utility companies, from KCCA. We have a lot of data, and when it comes in and shows that you have property elsewhere, we first send a request to you to interface with us, and after 6 months we send such kind of message. Please file. And I think on a daily basis I get about 5 calls of that kind. Yes, and then we have. But I know that some of the data. One of the members here was very angry with KCCA. I think on Monday. Because the data that we're using now for this month was from KCCA, and he has been complaining with KCCA for the last 2 months because they gave him a property that was not his. Yeah, so that happens, and so if he is not able to resolve it with them, it sips through to us because we take that kind of information and say, please, but we give you the opportunity to first come and explain to us, or so that we can reconcile that position. That's the reason you're receiving those messages. Yes, there is also an analysis on importation. There are a number of members here who do a lot of importation, and so when we did our analysis, we were looking at individuals who are frequent importers, but we don't have any income tax side. So we would want to understand what kind of business you're in. If it's strictly parliamentary remuneration, we also have to do that kind of analysis. And I think it has happened to about 4 or 5 members here. Thank you. So, sir, I was talking about register cleaning, but the other element that also affected was the deferment of filing. I think as a government policy, there was deferment of filing for pay-as-you-earn and for income tax. And of course, many members took advantage of that one, and it's one of those areas that affected. Of course, we cannot run away from the period that had COVID, because we have areas like the casino and pool betting that has never recovered, their filing is in single digits all the time because of that. But all effort is being done now. We have every individual, and we continue to encourage people to file and continue to clean up so that these ratios are actually, our target is 90% and not even the 80 that is indicated. The Honorable Kakoza, I think it is you who requested for an update on DTS. Kindly refer to the document on the responses. That will give you a breakdown on how far we've gone with DTS. It will show you the registration status, which is about 200%. It will also show you that we are now moving from its page 8 and 9. It will also indicate that we are now moving from just the 6 items to adding the 2, sugar and cement. It will also indicate the challenges, and we seek your support on seeing that we mitigate these challenges. The cost of the stamp is still high if you talk to your constituents or the taxpayers. And one of the reasons from the side we can control is the VAT on the stamp, which we hope Parliament can remove, because because if it's there, there will be every reason for the taxpayer to say, but on your side also, for the service provider, on your side also you're making it harder for us because you're putting a cost on which is recoverable, but it's still stifling the cash flows of the taxpayer. We also, on the taxpayers...
Yes, sir, please, I want to understand about the cost. Most of our people are saying the digital stamp has made it difficult for them to operate. The cost is very high. So what constitutes the cost of a digital stamp?
There is a breakdown on the cost per product.
For example, if we go to
Waraji, those spirits have the highest at 185.
Because
yes.
That's where the most complaints are coming from.
Yes.
So you can elaborate.
Yeah, it has the highest. That is the price that we managed to agree with the supplier. It's at 185, but within that price is the VAT. So on our side, that's why I said that the control, what is within our control, because the other one is on the side of the supplier.
85 what?
185 shillings
185
per liter, yes.
Per
liter.
Per liter?
Yes.
So you charge a stamp per liter?
Yes, for the way it is packed, a stamp per liter.
So if I'm producing 1,000 liters,
that's the numbers you give 185 to 185,000. The one of Waraji is, and the reason why at that time, the reason given for the Waraji one to be that high, the spirits, was because of numbers, the quantum. They said the production of the spirits in Uganda was not as high in order to give them their break
but
even.
If there is a challenge, instead of, because a tax policy should not be, a tax policy like a digital stamp should not be a deterrent measure. It should be a mechanism to bring so many people into the tax bracket and to help government raise the desired tax revenue, but not to deter people. So if you realize, like you are also admitting, and what the players are saying, that this is deterring them, can't there be a solution? Even to extend that really, because those are small, medium enterprises, but also to categorize. Who determines the cost of the stamp? You should. If it is determined by you or government, is it something we can look into, such that it is not deterrent to businesses? Yeah, even categorizing. What other countries are doing, they categorize those small entities, they categorize the medium and the large ones. I think the problem is now from the small ones, because the larger ones, it helps them also to have a proper formal doing of business, because you are identified, your transactions are clear, even it helps you. But for the small ones who are really complicated about to do their small business, it can be a problem. So government can take it to itself and then sponsor, pay some cost, so that everybody, whoever is doing business, comes in the bracket, so that you know that person who's in business. Because the problem now is everybody is not the tax bracket. And the moment you do that, you encourage people not even to inform you, to give you information, the people you want to target and get a revenue. So if the chairman, what is proposing, he could have given us advice and say that cost government can afford to pay, so that everybody comes on board. After coming on board for a certain period, then people can establish themselves and then start paying, because they would have seen the benefits out of that. Digital stamping is not on one side, but also those people who are utilizing it, they are able to understand even the filing of returns, because you are already, by the time you come to declare, they have known you what you have. You get what I'm saying? I think it's very important what the chair is saying. Those small categorize. How much can we, government, intervene in those small enterprises?
About the cost of digital stamps.
Just for clarity, Honorable Chair, members, the cost is not determined by government or ourselves for that matter. The cost is as a result of a negotiation with the service provider, and from the service provider's perspective, it's a cost that will allow them over the years of the contract to break even. So it was much higher than, for instance, for YG, it was much higher than 185 before. And government under the Ministry of Finance did enter into a renegotiation, and it came down. Now, what I recall is that one of the teething issues there was quantities, because they were not sure the scopes that, the sites that scoped were not giving them the quantities to break even, especially for the spirits. But for water, and that's why you see water is really low. Water, beer, and the rest of it, the quantities were fine. And comparatively, in the region, when you come to water, beer, and the rest were lower, but for the spirits were much higher. But it was because of quantities. But the point here is that we are still discussing. We have given feedback to SICPA and told them that the price of the stamp is being contested by their clients, and they are willing, and we've been in talks with them over bringing it down. Yeah, and it's ongoing.
So there cannot, the agreement was arranged in such a way that only one supplier can supply at a time.
Yeah, well, that's a fact. So I wouldn't speak to how it was arranged, but it's only one person who can be in the market for that at this time.
For how
That
long?
is just a fact. For the period of the agreement, I don't quite recall.
Can you avail the agreement parameter?
It would,
If he entered into, who did he enter into the agreement with?
Government of Uganda.
Then you can give us a copy.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
No, if it is a government
Wouldn't.
agreement, we need to look at it. Because it is affecting our people negatively. We would like to know, Mr. CG, what are you, any comment?
Chair, maybe the Commissioner Legal may say something about the duration of the agreement, but for sure one of the provisions in the agreement that I know, and it has been a basis for our engagement with the service provider,
Yes.
is that when the volumes increase, the prices should come down.
Could come down.
There's even a provision that allows us to review the prices after 2 years.
Yes.
So we've been pressing the service provider to make sure that they adjust the prices downwards. And for the new entities that are coming on board, sugar and cement, we had a series of meetings to agree that they enter at a low price compared to what they had asked for. But for the specific duration...
Then why is this information not coming through to the public? Yes, because people are leaving business simply because the cost of stamp is being high. People are saying we are closing next month because we can't manage the cost of the stamp. Why should the cost of the stamp be to the extent of closing people's businesses when it's a matter of negotiation between the service provider and the government? Because government thinking is facilitate business. Because these businesses, Mr. CG, are employing people. The only issue is not about taxation. Yes, it is a source of livelihood for some of the people. So when we get to hear that we are closing next month, we are likely to close, and you do acknowledge, can there be an engagement? Yes.
It's good, Chair. You know, when our friends in URA, you should not fear to reveal to us so that we help you where you find hiccups. With the Minister of Finance is here. Some of those contracts and they are made by you and you are not party, and you find that. But we need to know exactly, because if we don't know the policies we make, does affect your performance. Because if if you have 100 businesses and 30 are closing, 40 are closing, so you should get interested. And we, as in the who are passing the policy, you pass the information to us and see how we can pressurize to help you out. Because sometimes they will set a target for you, you have to correct this, like a Minister of Finance comes, you have to correct this, this is the target, but realistically, you find that you can't do it. So these are sort of things which look to be simple, but they have an impact on your performance. And really, you should not hesitate to pass information to us, and we pressurize these guys. Because when you keep quiet, they will say you are not performing.
So if we want this contract, who do we ask questions?
Chair and honorable members, yes, the contract is actually between URA as an entity and SICPA. Yes, so yes, the document is available if a committee...
so by implication, please send us, avail a copy to us.
Yes, Honorable Chair, will do that.
As
But
you send in other responses,
yes, that's
that
okay.
contract should also
But
be...
on the Chair, on a DTS, I wanted to say that one of the measures that we are bringing in to try and reduce the cost of the stamps is a policy issue where we want to remove at least the VAT on that component. And that has been included in the proposals.
Bring it.
Yes, Honorable, we are bringing that, so I think that should be able to have at least an impact on the final price.
If you are sure, if we do it, the companies who are suffering with the digital stamps will reduce cost. It's conditional. It will be conditioned on the fact that the cost of digital stamp will go down, not to benefit the service provider.
So that particular will benefit the taxpayers to an extent. But also, like Patrick has said, we are engaging the service provider because indeed...
Reduce the cost.
To reduce the cost, yes. And in the agreement, yes, they agreed to that, but it is after ascertaining a particular volumes. But we have said because the cost has been such a big problem, we have asked them, can we start the negotiations even before they reach the volumes?
Yeah, we could get a clarification from the legal director that if it is provided within the agreement that as production or whatever increases, the costs will definitely come down. Why are they not implementing it? And then you again have to what? To negotiate. Is it something that you negotiated, or it's already within the terms of the agreement?
It's already, the volumes have not yet been reached. But they have agreed that even before they reach the volumes, as was agreed in the contract, they are willing to look at the negotiation and we look at these prices. But also in addition to that, we have introduced 2 additional items. That is the cement and the sugar that were not originally captured in the original agreement. So, Chair, we believe that indeed with these measures, we should be able to reach a point where the cost of the stamp is indeed not a hindrance to businesses.
At least I'm happy URA acknowledges the challenges the taxpayers are going through. They say they don't have any problem with digital stamps, but the challenge is the cost. I am glad you acknowledge and there is an effort to address the concerns. So next.
Chair, I think from my side, I don't think I've left out. I'll leave the acting Commissioner Tax Investigations to talk about laboratory. I think, yeah? Is there any other?
Chair and honorable members, I can just make a comment on the matters that relate to legal services. Honorable raised an issue about the 60%, the case success rate that covers both the civil cases and the criminal cases. But a bulk of these are the cases where the taxpayers, after going through the internal resolution mechanisms, have failed, and then they take us to courts. So we start with the Tax Appeals Tribunal, and then the cases, some of them escalate to the High Court and to the Court of Appeal. But out of these, we have a success rate so far at 60% of cases that have been resolved in favor of the URA. But in addition to that, we also take on cases, especially for prosecution, for criminal proceedings, where we are looking at ways of deterring taxpayers from engaging in habits which are persistent. So it is a combination of both the criminal and the civil cases. But in addition to that, because we have realized that a lot of tax revenue is actually tied up in the courts of law, we have also introduced a mechanism where we are able to have mediation. So we are considering a lot of these cases under the alternative resolution mechanisms, where indeed between the taxpayers and the URA, we have an engagement and then try to see whether these cases can be resolved outside the court premises. And that indeed has also brought in a significant revenue. So it is a combination of all those factors to try and see that indeed we don't have a lot of revenue that is tied up in the courts. The other question I wanted to raise, to answer to, is the issue of the policy measures. Honorable Chair, yes, I agree that the way we've been looking at these policy measures with the Ministry of Finance needs a lot of work to be able to reach to a point where indeed we have policy measures that are fully researched, that they have statistics backing them up, that indeed detailed study has been going through. So indeed we acknowledge it has been a challenge, and it is something that we highlighted in the domestic resource mobilization strategy, that we must change the way these policies are brought before Parliament, because it is also not good practice to have these policy measures coming to Parliament and then they are thrown out simply because they have not been researched. So what we have done this year, at least for a start, is to have discussions with the ministry that for each policy measure, do you actually have a backup? Do you have statistics? Do you have data that can actually support the policy measure that you're bringing along? In addition to that, we have also tried to have a lot of stakeholder engagements, that before a policy is coming through. Yes, Chair.
Please be mindful, you're on record. And Apple is not far.
Yeah, I know. Yes, Apple is not far.
I'll put the same question before you in Apple.
Yes, Chair. Yes, you will see a difference in the measures which are coming through this financial year.
Okay.
Yes. They will be better, yes, in terms of, because I know one of the comments that has come from these committees that most of these measures really don't have the data that Honorable Kakoza is talking about. But for this year, we have tried indeed to have the information that is available to support the different measures which are coming through. But then also the other critical aspect.
Yes.
Do these people in the Ministry of Finance try to contact you and work out together before? Because you see, we passed a bill here in the House. But the minister who signed that bill said, how did it come to the House? How did we pass it? He denied even to embarrass us. Not until the signature was on his bill. So, is there a real mechanism that those people transparently tell you that this is the policy, this is the data, this is the information, that you sit together and agree? Yeah.
The Commissioner Legal is making commitments before the committee. For now, let's believe. Apple is just a few, less than 60 days away. We shall take her on her word. She's making a commitment. For now, let's believe what she's saying.
Yes, Honorable, that you can hold us accountable. But what I was going to say is that also this year, we have tried to incorporate stakeholders in this process. Because a number of times as well, we've had a proposal that would impact a particular sector, and then they come up and say, but we're not consulted. So the ministry, of course, with the URA, us in attendance in those meetings, they've had a number of consultative meetings where a number of these policy measures, which will be coming to you, Honorable, have been discussed, and then there's been at least some sort of agreement on the way forward. So also take into consideration what their concerns would be or what the impact of the measure would be. So even that was incorporated at least for the measures for this particular financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And
Yes, Kapo. What is there? Is there anything from corporate services?
yeah, one main on the wage bill, which Honorable Iruko pointed out. Yes, we appreciate. We appreciate the support that we've been getting from your committee chair and honorable members. But the issue of staff numbers, what we are looking at is the approved structure vis-a-vis the current structures that we have. Now, on the issue of absorbing the funds, the structure, for example, would have gotten a number of 260 fresh recruits who would have absorbed the amount of money that is seemingly unabsorbed. But because of COVID, for example, these numbers could not come in the financial year under consideration, and they just came in about to.
No, his concern is year in, year out.
Yes.
You report underperformance on the wage bill.
Yes.
So how can you convince us
Yes.
that you need extra staff when you are failing to absorb even the money we give you? That is the concern.
Maybe Chair to come in, would like also to place before the committee that this is one of the problems that will be in the past, because as Commissioner Corporate Services was trying to explain, there was delayed recruitment. Now we have staff on board. The few gaps that still exist, we will also complete that exercise before the end of the financial year. So I think going forward, Chair, we can pledge that you will not be seeing these gaps. We've tried to close them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Honorable Frank Akero, you are welcome.
Yeah. Thank you, CJ Chair, and I can reiterate that commitment, Chair, that when we have all these numbers for the field, we'll actually still be coming to you for some more support. Now, just the last one, on the which my colleague from Customs will also address, on the issue of station visits to the region, especially single customs territory. We appreciate the visit that we got from this team, and it's at that point that we actually got extra support from your committee.
In terms of staffing and also...
Staffing, accommodation.
Is Julius still there?
He is our ambassador, so we use that word in the single customs territory. He's still there. And I would appreciate that at the opportune time, when you are ready, you can still engage us, and we arrange another visit to appraise you and yourselves, the support you gave us and how much or to what extent we have used the support you gave us as we come to you for extra support in terms of staff, staffing numbers, and accommodation, and other tools of trade that we use or we require to support us in implementing our work. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, maybe on single customs territory, really, I think to appreciate this particular committee, because for a long time we actually didn't have funding for that. But because you and the entire committee came on board, we were able to get that, and the teams are really moving on very well. In terms of the progress, in terms of even the revenue contribution which they are bringing on board, it is very significant. And Chair, I think since your last visit, it has expanded, so they have a new station in Dar es Salaam. We are now in
Dar es Salaam, we visited Dar es Salaam.
You visited that as well,
But
yes.
you
But
had
even within...
only 2 staff. How many are they now? We had recommended additional staff
Yes.
for Dar es Salaam.
We added 2.
Did you send them there?
Yes. We
Okay.
have, Chair, we have 4 in Dar es Salaam.
Oh, okay.
It's very important, the performance or the difference when you were not at that stage. It's better that information to come out publicly, that single customs territory, what it has done, and even to forward it to the committee, so that when you are pushing whatever facilities you need to have to show the advantages you've had from the other method. It's quite important in the public to come out. Otherwise, you know, there was a resistance when that thing was starting. But now it must come out and reinforce the committee what it has done all this time since when you started that process. So it's better the public to know what has come out through that process. It's better if you should send that information to the chairperson of the committee so that the public know. Because then they think that it was maybe a sort of, some people are complaining it was a sort of pushing some people from business, but it had its merits, and the merits are clear. So that information must come out publicly.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kakoza. I think that is information that we shall regularly avail to the committee. But indeed, there are lots of benefits that have come through for the country, and of course from the revenue front. So that will be something that we'll be able to avail to the
Together with
committee.
the one-stop border, what is it called?
The one-stop border posts.
Progress on that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes,
Yeah.
I think the report can combine both. Yeah,
Okay.
but thank you, Chair.
We are concluding. Someone has
Honorable Chair
is this Abel
and members, my name is Abel Kagumire,
Kagumire?
the Commissioner Customs.
Okay.
Just to appreciate Chair and Honorable
They fixed how many? New ones. Okay. Okay. Yes, Honorable Wakero.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to get clarification about the scanners. You said you already have 6 big ones. I think we saw one of the big ones at
In,
Malaba.
In Maraba,
Well,
yes.
yes. And you said you have 6 of those, right? Of the 40 that you're still procuring, how many are big? Because you said of the 40, there are these handheld, and then these other ones, like this one of Parliament. So of those 40, how many do you still have in process for procurement?
Honorable Member, thank you, and Chair. We are planning to have 5 because the big scanners, you can only install them at one-stop border posts, which are already constructed. So if you procure and you have nowhere to put it, you're not adding value. So currently the construction of Goli is ongoing, the construction of Mpondwe is ongoing, the construction of Bunagana is ongoing, and the one for Katuna we removed because when the border closed, so we wanted to use it somewhere else as well. So that is the plan we have over these 5 years. Honorable Chair and members, I wanted to comment on misclassification of goods. I agree, yes, it's a training issue.
Misclassification and under declaration.
And under declaration.
Yeah.
But it's not to say that it has been rampant. I don't know. The statistics shows that we have actually been improving in that area because the people who start the process of declaration are the clearing agents. So the clearing agents now are being streamlined. Both before the single customs territory, the process would start in Uganda. Now the process starts in Mombasa and Dar es Salaam. So you make a single declaration. So it's very easy to critique it even before goods arrive, unlike before. And that has been a big streamlining in the area of declaration. So the errors can easily be detected even before goods arrive, unlike before. Of course, like Honorable has said, the training tariff keeps on changing. Today, if you had a scanner, for example, a photocopier, it has changed. You have a photocopier which does scanning, it does photocopying, it has multiple functions. So the officer who was trained about 15 years ago still thinks of the old tariff, because with change of technology, we have to keep on training our officers in this tariff. And that's why the lab, she will comment on it, is helping us now unearth those complicated classifications, especially textiles. Textiles also keep changing, and electronics. Chair, Honorable Chair and members, I also wanted to comment on transit of goods. I want to appreciate that we are trying to, transit of goods, our reform has mainly been on, can we track all goods as they move through East Africa?
Using that thing?
Using the regional electronic cargo tracking system.
That thing we saw in Nairobi?
Yes. The central command center.
Yeah.
So we monitor the goods as they move from Mombasa, Dar es Salaam, as they go through Uganda up to the neighboring counties.
But you see, Mr. Commissioner,
yes, Honorable.
that thing will see goods transiting through all our borders. Now, when they get to Congo, is the system able to track them until when they are frauded?
Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, members, we've been able to break through in Congo now. Congo has accepted to join the platform. So we can now scan up to Beni. It is only the Goma route which is being different. Because Congo is not a member of EAC, we have really negotiated at the higher level that they join the platform, and they have accepted. The only time we still have is in North Sudan, where we are still in talks. Recently, the Commissioner General has been talking with the new Commissioner General of South Sudan. That is one of the items in the agenda that is being discussed. How we can extend, so that as Uganda sees the truck go, we are sure we can monitor it as it continues. The way we do with Kenya, the way we do with Tanzania and Rwanda.
Yes.
So that is our Congo is already on board, but of course Congo is new. We started with most of the...
Because our concern, actually we even we talked to one of the communities in West Nile. I think, was it Chairman LOC for RDC? He was expressing big concern of motorcycles coming back. And the electronic tracking device was able to stop at the Congo-Uganda border. When goods would get into Congo, the tracking would stop, yes. So, yes.
That is what is happening in West Town is disturbing us. So we find out the enforcement officers are already running after the young people we talked about. They bring it, they dump it there, we auction, we bring it, they dump it there, we auction, until maybe Congo changes laws and starts registration. We can still have this challenge in the West Nile. That's our price of vehicles? No.
No.
It's on the motorcycle.
Mm.
But at our level, we try to reduce taxes as much.
Okay, try to summarize. It's already 1 o'clock. We want to.
That's all we need from customers.
Honorable Chair and members, I just want to give highlight on the URL laboratory. The question that came was in relation to classification and also where we're getting the funding. In consultation with our finance, actually we had a funding gap to enable us have that laboratory well funded and equipped. But nevertheless, the funds that we received enabled us to procure a couple of equipments that we believe is going to enhance that area of classification and address the misclassification that has been a problem. Up to last financial year, the URA Science Lab was on a space of about 45 square meters. But as we speak now, we got a new place that has actually expanded our occupancy to over 10 times the original space. And these equipments that we procured have been installed and will be able to help us cover additional 70% of the tests we were performing from laboratories outside URA. And those tests are going to focus on areas of textiles, cosmetics, oils, shoes, steel, and many other products. So we believe come this financial year and the next financial year, we should be able to give a very strong support to the customs in the area of classification. And on top of that, equally going deeper in confirming declarations from manufacturers, the application of input-output coefficient, which will help us to address issues of under declaration of sales and the like. And of course, we also know that that laboratory we are using it to give us a support function on prosecution, giving scientific evidences on cases that probably need more evidences beyond just the eye. So we are seeing a good future for URA to be a hub of giving a scientific support in the collection of revenue. And on top of that, we are also seeing that the kind of equipment that we've procured will enable us actually offer laboratory services to other government
In other words, you are
agencies.
able to now do the tests on your own.
Yes, that's the journey.
Okay.
Though we
That
are
is
now
the
in the
concern
process
Honorable
of
Charles
starting
was.
yes.
Then
Thank you.
lastly,
We are now about to start the testing and operationalizing the equipment that we already put in place, but still there is a funding gap of about 6 billion to enhance the capacity building and then the staffing gap as well, and then a few other equipments that if we got, actually our lab will be among the best labs in the region.
okay.
Submit.
All right, thank you. Lastly, on the impact of COVID. Impact of COVID on revenue performance.
Thank you, Chair and members. On the document that we provided addressing issues, on page 5, we have indicated some of the effects of COVID. Not page 5. Page 5 talks about page.
Page,
Yes.
I am.
Responses.
Are we
Yeah,
on
the challenges
are
of
we
COVID from
challenges?
page 5.
Yes.
So, Chair, as we indicated at the bottom of page 5, revenue growth in the first half of this financial year was at 4.77, unlike the expected double-digit growth of about 14 because of COVID. Of course, the revenue collections were the lowest in the months of lockdown, especially May, April, as indicated. Then, of course, the international trade volumes dropped significantly compared to the same periods last year. The businesses, local businesses were grossly impacted. The filing rates went down. Some of them have laid off their staff. Their payee returns have gone down. Some businesses, of course, have closed as a result of this. And even for us, the enforcement, the audit, even the advisories had to come down. Whichever letter is brought to my desk to sign, I have to reread it and reread it just to make sure that it is COVID sensitive, because businesses have suffered and we are very mindful of this. We cannot appear as if it is business as usual. So the only thing that has
Mr.
helped,
CG,
Chair,
in
yes.
terms of figures,
Yes.
not rates, what is this impact? By any chance, do you have figures?
Chair,
Because if you say
yes.
the revenue growth for the first half of financial year 2020-2021 declined by 10%. What is this in terms of?
Absolute figures.
Yes.
Okay. Chair, I request that we
Do we
give
have
the
that?
detail.
Sorry?
Can we submit that later?
You can submit it later.
Okay. Chair, we'll submit that later. Thank you so much. But maybe, Chair, let me just add on a few points to what my colleagues have given as additional comments. Chair, on the issue of staffing, and I'm very, very happy about your proposal, Chair, that your team would be ready to do another round of visit to see our operations. This will become very clear. Yes, we acknowledge that we've had some delays in recruiting people, and that's why we've had an unfilled structure even where the resources were provided. But as I mentioned, we have addressed this. We have set in place efficient measures of recruitment. We've put in place recruitment boards, shortlisting boards, and we are going to close that gap very soon, so it should not come again. But the need for additional resources will be very clear when we do the next visit. We still have districts and regions manned by as few as 5 people, and they are supposed to collect revenue in 10 districts. So these are the same people who are expected to go and register taxpayers and encourage them and remind them to file returns and check on them. So the numbers are clear overwhelmed.
Do audits.
Sorry? Yeah, and at the same time do audits. So definitely on the numbers, at least as a minimum, our prayer is that we'll fill the numbers on the structure,
Districts
600.
having how many staff? 2, 3.
Regions, you find a region, for example, Kitgum.
I am familiar with Kabale.
Yes, with Kabale, yes.
How many staff do you have in Kabale?
Chair, I think we have about 12, about 7. Okay.
Serving
And
Kabale, Soro, Kanungu,
Soro,
and Rukungu.
Kanungu, it's a huge area. And Tungamo, they come up to Rubare. Yes, yes. The numbers are that low. And really 7 would even include the support staff like a driver. So it is the understaffing is gross. And when we compare ourselves
so Kitgum serves Kitgum,
yes,
Ramo,
yes,
Padel,
yes,
and Kabong.
Yes. There are about 10 districts under Kitgum, with staff of about 7 again. That's the range for most of our offices.
Supported by how many vehicles?
Maybe 1 or 2 vehicles at most, yes. Yes. So really what happens, that is how our tax register keeps small. That is how taxpayers are there as a one-off and they are not followed up. To a very big extent, we depend on what we call normal flow, compliant people who come. So there is much room to be covered, and that is where we pray for your support, that we will conclude the recruitment processes that have not happened, but we want additional resources, the 604, so that we are able to cover more ground. Chair, related to that is the issue of revenue leakages, and one of them is, of course, the misdeclaration, the under-declaration, but even the quality of our audits, even the things that we do on a day-to-day. Now, we are putting our best effort as management to close those gaps. We are emphasizing integrity as a point, as a minimum requirement for anybody to work in URA, because we realize that this is a job that we can only handle with clean hands. So we are addressing the whole culture change to make sure that the staff know the value of upholding integrity. And that's why the other element of enhancement should come in soon, because as we demand so much from our staff, we should also be mindful that we meet their basic needs. But we are also addressing the issue of skilling. We have just created a division to focus on staff skilling and involvement, because we realize that some of the revenue leaks not because staff are compromised, but sometimes it's a question of competence. So we are taking on the challenge of developing the skills of our staff. We have created a division to focus on that, headed by an assistant commissioner. We are doing an assessment of the skills we have, and we want to fill the gaps that are there by training staff and bringing on board more professionals. So this is something that should help reduce the revenue leakages, but also to relating no corruption, so that when people
Share something
digress,
small, which
Yes,
is very
sir.
important for you,
Purpose.
Sigi.
yes, sir.
Of course, recruiting and what about the brain drain? You recruit people, after getting experience, they run out from you. Is it still as it is? Because of sometimes those people work under tedious situations. But then,
And this
Are they-
policy of 10 years,
yes.
5-year
because-
contract renewable once.
Yes, yes.
We
Yes.
noted some time back that we were losing people who are
Yes,
still resourceful
yes.
simply because of that stringent policy. Are there efforts?
Yes, Chair, Honorable Chair and
At
members.
URA, when someone becomes assistant commissioner,
Mm,
must work for 10 years and leaves,
that's right.
regardless of whether one is 45, 42, 40, as long as you have been at the level of commissioner, assistant commissioner. When you work for 10 years, you leave.
That's right.
So have you thought about it? You may not have an answer now, but these are things you need to.
Chair, I would like
Because,
to
Chair,
comment that.
what you are saying, I can imagine all these,
A good worker like
the
you,
good worker
10
who
years,
you have,
you
10 years and they leave you. But customs is
even when you
something,
still want to,
Yes.
even when you still have what.
why don't you engage the URA board and whatever, so that, and really you come, because it's a problem. Customs training and having experience of such a nature, it's not 10 years, it's 15. And when you lose a person, to go back and train that person to that level. And now technology has come in, you build up a person to that level, but 10 years is still 45, is still performing, you say, go. You're wasting that human resource in the public
That's right.
and jobs and whatever. Why don't you think to engage to, I think it's
These
not
are for the future.
for the future,
which
but
you need
think
to
about it,
Think about.
because most of
Honorable
the people,
Chair and members, we are thinking about this. As a matter of fact, we are doing a review of our human resource policies, and we'll be we'll be presenting
And
to
for your
board this.
information,
Yes, sir.
Commissioner General, these are the people who are enabling tax planning
That's right.
to defeat your intention.
Once they get out.
Yes.
That's right.
They come out when they are still very useful.
Yeah, even the integrity is talking about. When somebody knows that after 10 years, he may not be employed again, he has to devise ways of making sure that he sustains himself after 10 years.
That is those are very good observations, honorable members. We have two unique things that have been, policies that have been getting the URA staff to leave early. One is the limit on terms at senior management, renewable ones, but also our retirement age has been at 55.
55 is all right.
So from 50, people are looking
55,
for...
60, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm lucky to rise through the ranks early, and by 45 I have done my 40 years, sincerely, and I'm a good worker, why should I lose my job? Simply because of a policy. Not even by law. Is it by law?
No,
Policy just.
it was a policy.
Eh.
I think the background to this chair is that there are not many positions, so I think it
Muchibi,
was
which
also
term are
to
you
allow
serving?
growth.
You- The board, you see, like Muchibi would have left under your policy. Muchibi would have left. Now tell me, what would Muchibi be doing now? Helping tax planners defeat URA. Yeah.
But so there are young people in the organization also who look up to the exit of the old one so that they can grow. So it's a whole complicated thing that we are looking at. There must be many notches.
If you are not very useful, you
Oppositions.
can leave. But if you are valuable to URA, a mechanism can be thought about.
Those are the exceptions that the board has been considering
Yes.
to allow an extra term for someone they still need their services.
Oh.
But to assure you, Chair, the whole thing is under review, and we hope we'll come up with improved terms.
Who is the chairman of the board now?
It is Mr. Juma Kisame,
Juma of
DFCU,
of the one who was in the bank.
Yes, sir.
Former of DFCU.
DFCU. Yes. Oh. I know.
So, Chair, in conclusion, I wanted to assure the members on some of the comments, like the round-tripping concern. We are engaging our neighbors, and some of the investment, like for the seals and others that we need. Once we get them, we will be extending some of this service beyond our borders, because if your cargo, it's in our interest that we don't want it to be dumped just across our border. We can allow it to proceed with our seal to the destination, whether Juba or Sangani or wherever, and be sure that it has reached, instead of removing our seal at the border and then it offloads the round-tripping problem which Honorable Jane mentioned. So, Chair, and for the other areas, I think we need more information. Honorable Charles asked for estimates on the loss of revenue because of the alternative minimum tax policy that did not come through. We have some numbers, but we can firm them up and bring them. Our initial estimate is about 300 billion, but we will do a comprehensive submission on that. And he had also talked about the filing ratios, which I think has been, but the biggest impact on most of these measures really has been the COVID impact that I've already mentioned. There are businesses that have been affected, but there are those that have even gotten an excuse. So we have extended filing dates. We have done all sorts of adjustments and reminders, but we see that decline. So tax to GDP ratio, Chair, we are looking at improving this, and we have a comprehensive plan on how we'll go about this. But just to mention a few, one of them is the tax education, which we have prioritized, highlighted as one of the areas where we need your support in additional funding. When we look at our tax register, we have about 1.66 million taxpayers. Out of those, the majority of them, about 900, are really individual taxpayers, meaning they are people who pay through direct taxes, like pay as you earn and so on. So there is so much room for us to expand this register. But we want to do this by, one, educating our taxpayers so that they know they need to pay taxes, and also simplify the steps of doing that. But also, we want to expand our teams so that when you have a force in a region like we are saying, you have a few who can commit to working from business to business and understand who is registered and who is not. So we will do that to address that gap. But we also have a lot of businesses that we know nothing about. So we are enhancing our research, our data analysis, using the data that we have and data from other sources to see who are those potential taxpayers that are off our radar. So going forward, most of our decisions will be data-driven, and that is where we hope to come from and reduce and increase our tax to GDP ratio and improve our compliance. So when we do that, and the other areas that we mentioned on HR, skilling, integrity, we should be able to see our target is really to push our tax to GDP ratio somewhere above 20%. It's only then that we can expect significant development in the country. Thank you so much. I submit.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Commissioner General and your team. And thank you, colleagues, for your patience. And CG, do you have any concluding remarks?
Thank you, Chair. Let me just add on to what I've just said, that we want to so much appreciate the support that we have received from the Parliament, but in particular from this Committee on Finance, Planning and Economic Development. We have planned, I think, better this time. We are bringing forward through the Ministry of Finance, who we want to appreciate for allowing us to participate in the policy measures. So we have a number of measures that we pray that when they come, they will get your support so that we get them.
As long as bank charges, taxing bank charges is not one of them.
That's not one of them for sure. we also saw that on social media.
Bank charges, no, actually, actually bank withdrawals, bank transactions.
Yes.
As long as not one of them.
No, it won't be, sir.
The rest we shall work around.
Yes.
Honorable, you know that it's only withdrawals that don't have charges.
Yes. So,
by the bank.
you tax the bank charges.
That's true. We
But,
will tax
not-
the banks,
not
not the transactions.
Okay.
So, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. CG. I hope you had a good time appearing for the first time in the committee. And we want to commit supporting you, like we have always done before, because we know we milk from you. Unlike other entities of government, which just want to receive, for you receive and bring direct results. And we know with the well-supported URA, it's true our tax to GDP ratio can improve. Because I know one of the challenges is efficiency. And we cannot achieve efficiency when URA is not well supported. We will take feedback, and we will also advise you on how to do further engagements such that your budget for next financial year is enhanced to the best way possible within the circumstances. Thank you so much, colleagues, once again. This meeting is adjourned to Tuesday next week, 10 o'clock. All right.